You look at your electric bill, the number is higher than last month. Again, you didn't buy anything new, you didn't change a thing. And yet somehow the meter keeps spinning faster while your paycheck stays the same. Here is what nobody at the utility company will ever tell you. 10 ordinary habits, things you do every single day without a second thought, are quietly doubling what you pay. Not one big mistake, 10 small ones. And every one of them was avoided by the Amish for the better part of 200 years. I spent most of my life doing it the conventional way, paying whatever they billed me, assuming that was just the cost of being alive in America. Then I started spending real time with Amish families in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, and later up in Holmes County, Ohio. The first time I walked into one of those farmhouses near Millersburg, I stood in the front room for a good 20 minutes just looking for the thermostat. There wasn't one, and that house was warmer, drier, and more comfortable than my own for a fraction of what I was burning through every month. Before we're done, I'm going to hand you a single trick I found buried in an old technique those families still use every winter. It costs nothing. You can do it this weekend. And when you understand why it works, you'll be angry nobody told you sooner. This isn't just for people building a new house from scratch. This is for you, right now, in the home you already own, even if it was built 50 years ago. So stay with me, because the small ones come first, and they add up faster than you'd believe. Let's start with the one hiding in plain sight. Right now, all over your house, dozens of little machines are drinking electricity while doing absolutely nothing. Your television, the cable box, the microwave with the glowing clock, the phone charger with nothing plugged into it. Every one of them is pulling current 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, whether you're using it or not. Engineers have a name for this. They call it phantom load. Some people call it vampire power, and that's the better name because it drains you in the dark while you sleep. Here's the part that stops people cold. Study after study from National Energy Laboratories has found that this invisible drain accounts for somewhere between 5 and 10% of the electricity used in the average American home. For a lot of households, that's well over $100 a year paid out for the privilege of powering little red standby lights and clocks you never look at. You are renting electricity to devices that are switched off, and you've been doing it for decades. Now think about that Amish farmhouse. There is no phantom load because there is nothing plugged in humming through the night, nothing standing by, nothing waiting. When a thing isn't being used, it is truly off. That's not a hardship, that's a design, and you can copy it in about 10 minutes with a $5 power strip. Cluster your entertainment center, the TV, the box, the console, the soundbar onto one switch strip and flip it off when you go to bed. Same for the coffee station. Same for the office corner. You just fired the vampires. But the vampires are the easy part. The next habit is one you were actually taught to do, taught to believe was responsible, and it's costing you more than all the phantom loads combined. You were told to heat the whole house, keep it all one comfortable temperature, day and night, every room the same. That's the modern way. That's what the central system was built to do. Push one number to the whole structure and hold it there, and it is one of the most wasteful things human beings have ever done with energy, because most of the time you are paying to heat rooms with nobody in them. The guest bedroom, the hallway, the dining room you use twice a year, all of it kept warm around the clock for the benefit of the furniture. The Amish never did this, and not because they couldn't, they did it because it made no sense to them. In those homes, heat comes from a central wood or coal stove, usually placed low and central in the house, and the family organizes their life around that warmth. The rooms they live in are warm. The rooms they sleep in are cool by design, because you sleep better cold under heavy quilts. They heat the people, not the empty square footage. It's called zone heating, and it is the single biggest lever you have. Here's how you steal it without tearing anything out. Close the doors and the vents in the rooms nobody's using. Pull everyone toward the part of the house you actually live in during the day. A small, safe space heater in the one room where the family gathers can let you drop the whole house thermostat by several degrees. And every single degree you lower that thermostat over a season trims roughly 2 to 3% off your heating cost. Drop it 7 degrees while you sleep and while you're at work, and you've quietly carved a real chunk off the bill, the same discipline those families have practiced for generations. But heat is only half the year. The other half, you're fighting the exact opposite problem, and this is where most people bleed the most money without ever realizing it. Summer, the air conditioner. It's running right now in millions of homes, and it is the single hungriest machine most families own. And here's the habit that doubles its appetite. People run the AC all day long, with the house sealed up tight, fighting the afternoon heat head-on, hour after hour, while completely ignoring the free cold air that shows up every single night. Because here's the thing about the world before air conditioning. It got cool after dark. It still does. And the old farmhouses were built to grab that free coolness and hold on to it. The Amish house does something your house has forgotten how to do. It breathes on a schedule. At night, when the outside air drops, the windows open, often top and bottom, on opposite sides of the house, and the cool night air flushes straight through, carrying the day's heat out with it. Then at dawn, before the sun gets its teeth into the day, the house is shut up tight, windows closed, shades drawn on the sunny side. The thick walls and floors, cooled all night long, sit there like a stone in a spring, keeping the inside cool for hours while the world outside bakes. This works. Researchers who study passive cooling, including agricultural and desert climate programs at major state universities, have measured it. In the right conditions, this night flush and seal rhythm can keep a house comfortable through the hottest part of the day, using little or no mechanical cooling at all. You already own everything you need to do it. Windows and shades, that's it. Open at dusk, cross the breeze, close at dawn, block the sun. Do that faithfully for a summer, and watch what happens to the July bill. But there's a third machine running every hour of every day, all year round, that most people never even think about, and it's the second biggest energy user in the entire house. Your water heater. That big silent tank in the basement or the closet, it never stops. Its whole job is to keep 40 or 50 gallons of water piping hot at all times, around the clock, on the off chance you might want to shower, all night while you sleep, all day while you're at work. Weekends when you're gone, it keeps reheating the same water over and over, fighting the slow leak of heat through the tank wall. That constant reheating, engineers call it standby loss, is pure waste, and in the average home, the water heater eats up close to a fifth of the entire energy bill. Two things you can do this weekend, both borrowed from the same spirit of not wasting what you don't need. First, find the temperature dial on that tank. There's a good chance somebody set it to 140 degrees at the factory. Turn it down to 120. You will not notice the difference in the shower, but you will notice it on the bill, because every 10 degrees you drop can shave a few % off that heater's cost, and you slow down the mineral scale that shortens the tank's life. Second, if that tank is warm to the touch, wrap it. An insulating blanket for a water heater costs about $20 and cuts the standby loss substantially. The Amish, of course, don't keep 50 gallons hot on standby for a maybe. They heat what they need when they need it. Same principle. And speaking of things kept cold and hot on standby, the next habit is probably standing in your garage or your basement right now, humming away, costing you a fortune to keep 6 sodas and a bag of freezer-burned meat. The second refrigerator. The old one you didn't want to throw away, so it went out to the garage. Or the chest freezer in the basement that's half empty. It feels thrifty. It feels like being prepared. But here is the ugly math. An older second fridge, especially one from the 80s or 90s, running in a hot garage can cost you $150 or more a year all by itself to keep almost nothing cold. It runs constantly because the garage is hot in summer, forcing the tired old compressor to work twice as hard than it ever would inside. Now, the Amish kept food cold for 2 centuries without a single kilowatt, and they did it with the ground, a root cellar. The earth just a few feet down stays remarkably steady all year, somewhere in the 50s, cool in summer and above freezing in winter. The United States government understood this so well that the USDA published detailed farmers' bulletins in the early 1900s, teaching families exactly how to build and stock cellars and storage pits to keep vegetables and fruit through the winter without any machine at all. That knowledge was mainstream, printed by the government, and then quietly forgotten the moment the electric companies had a reason to sell you a second compressor. You may not dig a root cellar this weekend, and that's fine. But you can walk out to that garage, look hard at what's actually in that second fridge, and ask whether it's worth $150 a year. For most people, consolidating into one full, efficient refrigerator and unplugging the old beast is found money, the easiest raise you'll get this year. And here I want to stop for a second, because everything I've just handed you, the vampire strips, the zone heating, the night flush, the water heater, the cellar, these are only the first pages of something much bigger, because I didn't figure this out alone. Every one of these methods came from real families who never stopped using them, and I ended up gathering the whole system, room by room, the heating, the cooling, the pantry, the pest control, the off-grid water into one complete collection called the Complete Amish Home System. It's the rest of the buried archive you're getting a single taste of right now, and there's a special reduced offer on it running at the moment, linked down in the description where you'll see the QR code on the screen you can scan. I put it together because this knowledge was taken from ordinary people on purpose, and I think folks like you deserve it back. So let's get right back to it, because the next habit is the one that made me angry when I finally understood who benefited from it: lighting. You'd think this one was solved, and you'd be half right. But here's the habit that still costs people real money without them knowing: overlighting. Lighting rooms nobody's in, blazing overhead fixtures with 6 bulbs when 1 lamp would do, and clinging in a few forgotten fixtures to the old incandescent bulbs that throw away 90% of their energy as heat instead of light. For 100 years, that was the only bulb you could buy, and it was almost perfectly designed to waste electricity, a tiny wire, glowing hot, most of the power going straight up the flue as heat you didn't ask for. The Amish approach to light is almost embarrassingly simple, and it's one you've stopped seeing because your house is built to fight it. They use the sun. Homes and workspaces are laid out so daytime work happens where the daylight falls near big windows on the south side, so that for most of the daylight hours you don't burn anything at all. When the sun goes down, the light is small, local, and only where someone actually is: a single lamp on the table where the family sits, not a whole ceiling lit up for an empty room. You can copy every bit of that. Swap the last of your old bulbs for LEDs, which use around 80 to 90% less power for the same light and last for years. Then change the habit underneath. Light the person, not the palace. One good lamp where you're reading beats a whole room lit up for nobody. Move your daytime tasks toward the windows. It sounds too small to matter until you remember we're stacking 10 of these, and every one of them was a lever the utility quietly hoped you'd never pull. But now, if you've been sitting there thinking this all sounds fine for someone building a brand new house and your place is old, and you're wondering if any of this is really for you, stay with me, because this next part is specifically for you. If your house was built before 1980, you are not at a disadvantage. You are sitting on a hidden advantage, and here's why. Older homes have a weakness that is also, once you understand it, the cheapest fix in this entire video. It's called the stack effect, and it's the reason your old house feels drafty no matter how high you crank the heat. Warm air rises. It always has. In your home, that warm air you paid so dearly to create is floating up and leaking out through the top of the house, the attic hatch, the gaps around the chimney, the little openings where pipes and wires pass through the ceiling, and as it escapes up top, it pulls cold air in through every crack down low to replace it. Your house is acting like a chimney, and you are the fire. Here is the fix, and it requires no permit, no contractor, and no permission from anyone. You go up into the attic on a cool day. You find the places where warm air is escaping the gaps around the chimney chase, the top plates of the walls, the holes cut for wiring, the pull-down stairs or hatch that's nothing but a thin, uninsulated board, and you seal them and insulate them, caulk and can foam for the small gaps, a simple insulated cover or even a weather-stripped box over that attic hatch. This is exactly the logic those old farmhouses were built around. Keep the warm air from bolting straight up and out and building. Scientists at university extension programs will tell you that air sealing the top of the house is often the highest return dollar a homeowner can spend, sometimes paying for itself in a single winter. The reason this matters so much in an older home is that the people who built your house back before cheap energy made everyone lazy understood the stack effect in their bones. Then energy got cheap, and the knowledge got sloppy, and somewhere along the way it became easier to sell you a bigger furnace than to teach you to plug the hole in the ceiling. You already own the house. The advantage is already yours. You just have to climb up and claim it. And that brings us to the habit that hides inside the very machine you trust to keep you warm and cool, the one that's been secretly oversized and mismanaged in most American homes for 40 years. Here's a strange one. The furnace and air conditioner most people own are too big. Not too small, too big. For decades, the easy way to sell and install heating and cooling was to put in more capacity than the house needs, just to be safe, just to be sure nobody ever complained about being cold. But an oversized system is a wasteful system. It blasts on hard, hits the number fast, and shuts off over and over all day long. Short, violent cycles. And every time it kicks on from a dead stop, it gulps a surge of energy and wears itself out faster, like a driver who only ever floors the gas and slams the brakes. The Amish heat source is the opposite of this in every way. A masonry stove, or a big cast iron one, or a soapstone heater works by being slow and steady. You build a fire, the mass of stone or iron soaks up the heat, and then it radiates that warmth gently for hours and hours, long after the flames are gone, low and slow, steady and even. No violent blasts, no wild swings, just a calm, constant warmth that fills the room and holds. That's not primitive. That's thermal mass, and it's one of the most sophisticated heating ideas humans ever worked out. You can't rebuild your furnace, but you can manage it like the old-timers managed a fire, and you can help your house hold heat the way that soapstone does. Keep the filter clean, because a clogged filter chokes the system and makes it work harder for less. Keep the vents open and unblocked so the air actually moves. And add mass and insulation wherever you can, heavy curtains, rugs on cold floors, anything that helps your rooms hold their temperature steady instead of swinging. The steadier your house holds its warmth, the less that oversized machine has to blast. But even a perfectly managed system is fighting a losing battle if you're making the mistake in the next habit, the one you commit every time you do laundry. The electric clothes dryer. It is one of the thirstiest appliances in the house, and it runs on pure convenience. Every load, it heats a big drum of air to a high temperature and tumbles your clothes until the water is gone, and then it blows that hot, moist air straight out a vent in your wall, out of the house, gone forever. Think about that. In the winter, your dryer takes air you already paid to heat, warms it up even more, and then throws it outside. You are heating the outdoors, one load of towels at a time. And in the summer, that same dryer dumps heat and humidity into your house that your air conditioner then has to fight. The Amish, of course, dry clothes the way nearly everyone did until about 70 years ago. The line, the sun, and the wind. It costs nothing, it's gentle on the fabric, and it makes the whole load smell like the outdoors in a way no machine ever managed to bottle. In good weather, a clothesline outside. In winter, or in bad weather, a drying rack indoors. And hold on to that detail, because that indoor rack is going to matter enormously in just a minute when I show you the trick I promised at the very start. You don't have to give up your dryer entirely to win here. Put up a line or set a folding rack by a sunny window and air dry even half your loads. Every load you don't run is money you don't spend and heat you don't throw out the window. And here's what starts to become obvious once you stack all of this together. Every single one of these habits has the same fingerprint on it. Someone, somewhere, benefited from you not knowing. And when you follow that thread far enough, it stops looking like an accident. Because the next habit isn't about a machine at all. It's about how your entire house was designed to make you dependent, and about the people who made sure it stayed that way. Look at your windows. Specifically, look at them in the late afternoon when the summer sun is pounding on the west side of your house, or on a cold night when you can feel the chill rolling off the glass. A window is a hole in your wall. In summer, sunlight pours straight through it and heats your rooms like a greenhouse, and your air conditioner fights that free solar heat all afternoon. In winter, the heat you paid for presses against that cold glass and pours right out. Bare, unmanaged windows are one of the biggest energy leaks in the average home, and most people treat them as pure decoration. Here's where it gets pointed. For most of American history, people managed their windows like their comfort depended on it, because it did. Heavy interior shutters, thick curtains, quilted window coverings you closed against the winter night and the summer sun. The old pattern books and household manuals of the 1800s are full of it. Window management was simply part of running a house. Then came cheap energy and central systems, and a quiet message settled over the whole country. Don't worry about any of that, just buy more power. The knowledge of how to run a house with the seasons wasn't lost by accident. It was made to feel unnecessary, because dependent customers are better customers, and a family that knows how to keep itself warm and cool with shutters and shade doesn't need to buy nearly as much of what the utilities are selling. So here's what you do, and it's simple. In summer, close the shades and curtains on the sunny side of the house during the day, especially the west windows in the afternoon. Keep that solar heat out before it ever gets in. In winter, flip it. Open those curtains during the day to let the sun's warmth pour in and heat your rooms for free, then close them tight at night to trap the warmth against the cold glass. Heavy, lined curtains are best, and they're cheap. This is the exact rhythm those old farmhouses lived by, and it's a habit, not a purchase. But now we come to the last habit, and to the secret I promised you at the very beginning, the one I found still alive in those Ohio farmhouses, the one that costs nothing, and the one that made me feel like a fool for all the years I paid without it. Here's the last mistake, and it's the one underneath all the others. In winter, you keep making your air hotter and hotter, chasing a comfortable feeling that keeps slipping away, cranking the thermostat up because the house just doesn't feel warm even though the number on the wall says it should be plenty. You blame the furnace, you blame the drafts, you turn it up another 2 degrees, and you pay for it. But the temperature was never really the problem. The problem is something you were never taught to think about at all. And this is the secret the Amish never lost. The problem is the humidity. Here's the piece almost nobody understands. How warm your air feels has as much to do with how moist it is as with how hot it is. Dry air feels cold. It pulls moisture off your skin and makes you feel chilled even when the thermometer reads 70. That's why the desert turns cold the moment the sun goes down, and it's why your house feels raw and drafty all winter no matter how high you push the heat, because your furnace is drying your indoor air out to a desert crackle. The engineers who write the comfort standards for buildings have known this for decades. Raise the humidity in a room, and people feel just as warm at a noticeably lower temperature. Now, walk back into that farmhouse near Millersburg with me. There's a kettle sitting on the wood stove, steaming quietly. There's a rack of laundry drying in the warm front room. There are pots of water near the heat. I used to think that was just how things happened to be. It wasn't. Every bit of it was putting moisture into the air on purpose. Those families learned over 200 years and passed down without a single utility bill to teach them that moist air feels warm, so they kept their homes gently humid, and they stayed comfortable at temperatures that would have me reaching for the thermostat. The knowledge existed, it was old, and it was proven. Then it was buried under a century of selling people more heat instead of better air, and a handful of plain families off the grid kept it alive without even thinking of it as a secret. Here is exactly what you do, and you can start tonight. Put a wide pan or a kettle of water on or near your heat source and let it evaporate slowly into the room. Dry that load of laundry indoors on a rack. Instead of blowing the moisture out the dryer vent, you add humidity and save the dryer at the same time. 2 wins from 1 change. If you have a humidifier gathering dust, run it. Get a cheap little gauge to watch your indoor humidity and nudge it up toward the 35 to 45% range. Then, and this is the whole payoff, turn your thermostat down 2 or 3 degrees. You will feel just as warm, maybe warmer, because you finally fixed the thing that was actually making you cold. And those 2 or 3 degrees, held all winter long, come straight off your bill for the price of a pan of water. That's the trick I found alive in those homes after everyone else forgot it. It costs nothing. You can do it this weekend, and it undoes the single most expensive mistake in your winter, chasing warmth with temperature when the answer was moisture all along. So let's be honest about what really happened here. None of these 10 habits are your fault. You were taught every one of them. You were sold the machines, handed the routines, and told that the ever-climbing bill was simply the cost of a modern life. It wasn't. It was the cost of forgetting things that ordinary families kept alive for 2 centuries, just a few counties over, without a wire running to the pole. what you feel right now isn't just the promise of a smaller bill. It's the feeling of getting something back that was quietly taken from you, the plain, practical knowledge of how to keep your own family warm, cool, and fed without asking permission or paying a toll to anyone. If you're the kind of person who has always suspected that real, useful knowledge got pushed aside so somebody else could keep selling you the expensive version, then you already know what to do next. So tell me one thing down in the comments, and be specific because I read them. Which of these 10 are you starting with this weekend? The vampire power strip, the night flush windows, or the pan of water on the stove? Don't just think it, type it out and leave the comment, because this audience is quiet, and I want to know I'm not talking to an empty room. And if you want to keep recovering what was buried, subscribe and stand with the rest of us who are digging it back up one method at a time, because the next thing I'm going to show you is how those same families kept an entire cellar full of food from spoiling through the whole winter without a refrigerator, a freezer, or one single watt of power. You're going to want to be here for that one.